In the mountains of Peru, farmers grow corn on slopes so steep you can barely stand. It rains 30 inches a year, but most run straight off the mountain within hours. The dry season lasts 8 months, yet these slopes never dry out. Springs appear mid-slope, flowing even in August when valley rivers below have been dust for weeks. When hydrologists drilled test wells, they found something impossible: water tables rising uphill, defying gravity, flowing from deep aquifers to surface springs that shouldn't exist.
The Inca built these systems 4,000 years ago using stone channels and ditches. Modern engineers call it infiltration enhancement, but they can't explain how it works so effectively. And here's what should make you furious. In 2014, this technology could have solved Lima's $3 billion water crisis for $100 million. The World Bank said no. In 3 minutes, I'll show you why. But first, the system they buried. The technique is called Amunas in Peru, Swales in permaculture, water spreading in hydrology. Same principle across 4,000 years. Slow water, spread it, sink it deep. What comes back is permanent moisture, springs, seeps, year-round hydration from rain that fell months earlier. Ancient engineers understood something modern agriculture forgot. When rain falls on sloped land, it runs downhill fast. Fast water doesn't infiltrate, it erodes. But when you slow that water, force it to spread horizontally instead of rushing down, it has time to soak in. Once underground, water doesn't disappear. It travels through fractured bedrock, following underground contours until it resurfaces as springs downslope, exactly where you need them, like you've hacked the water table itself. The Inca formalized this between 1400 and 1500 AD, but evidence suggests it goes back 4,000 years to pre-Inca cultures. They built stone-lined channels called Amunas, running perpendicular to slope, on contour, following the elevation line rather than running downhill. During rainy season, November to March, these channels intercepted runoff and spread it across mountainsides. Water infiltrated slowly through channel bottoms, recharging underground aquifers. Then here's the part that made Spanish colonizers nervous. 3 to 6 months later, during dry season, springs appeared mid-slope, 100 to 500 feet below the Amuna channels, flowing with crystal-clear water. The lag time between infiltration and spring emergence proved water was traveling underground, stored in fractured rock, then resurfacing when it hit impermeable layers downslope. Stay with me, because in 90 seconds I'll show you the World Bank memo that explains why they killed this technology. Spanish chronicler Pedro de Cieza de León wrote in 1553 about ditches that bring water to fields where none should flow, and springs that appear as if by magic in the dry season. But the Spanish viewed Amunas as primitive, inferior to European canal systems. They dismantled many, using stones to build churches. By the 1800s, most were abandoned. Knowledge survived in remote villages, but engineers dismissed it as folklore. Then in the 1980s, Lima faced severe water shortages. The city relied on glacier snowmelt, but climate change was shrinking glaciers fast. Engineers proposed desalination plants and reservoirs costing $3 billion. Then hydrologists from National Agrarian University studied old Amunas still functioning in mountains above Lima. What they found stunned the engineering community. In Huamantonga, communities maintaining ancient Amunas receive same annual rainfall as surrounding areas, 30 inches, but their springs flowed 40% longer into dry season. Soil moisture in August-September, 25 to 35% below active Amunas versus 8 to 12% in control areas. The 2014 research by the Nature Conservancy calculated that rehabilitating ancient Amunas could increase dry season water in Lima's watershed by 33%, at a cost under $100 million, 30 times cheaper than desalination. But here's the number that made water utilities panic. The Amunas weren't just storing water, they were multiplying it. For every gallon infiltrating through Amuna channels, 1.5 to 2 gallons emerged from springs over the dry season. How is that possible, and why did the World Bank refuse to fund it? The key is understanding what really happens underground. When rain hits bare soil, 60 to 80% runs off immediately. Maybe 20 to 40% infiltrates, but most stays in top 12 inches and evaporates within weeks. Almost none reaches deep aquifers. But when water spreads across a level channel and sits for hours or days, infiltration skyrockets. Water held in swales for 24 hours can penetrate 3 to 6 feet deep, entering fractured bedrock. Once at depth, water is protected from evaporation. Surface soil heats to 100 degrees Fahrenheit in summer. 6 feet down, constant 55 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Water stored at depth doesn't evaporate. It travels slowly through fractures until forced back to surface as springs. But here's a multiplication effect engineers don't advertise. The Amunas also capture sediment. As water slows, it drops clay and silt. Over years, this builds up, creating a sponge layer that improves infiltration. Additionally, as water infiltrates, it encounters existing groundwater, combining with it. The spring-emerging downslope isn't just the rain that fell in the Amuna, it's that rain plus the groundwater it contacted underground. This is why you see more water coming out than going in. The Amunas are tapping existing deep aquifers and bringing them to the surface where they're useful. Now here's why the World Bank killed it, and it's not what you think. In 2017, University of Arizona tested this in the American Southwest. They built experimental swales on a ranch in southeastern Arizona, receiving 14 inches annually. They installed groundwater monitoring wells upslope and downslope. Before swales, water table at 40 to 50 feet below surface, inaccessible to roots. After 2 rainy seasons with swales, downslope wells showed water table rising to 15 to 20 feet. Springs appeared at slope base, seeping from rock, flowing at 2 to 5 gallons per minute. These springs continued 4 to 6 weeks longer into dry season. The rancher measured vegetation impact. Grasses stayed green 8 weeks longer. Trees showed 40% more growth. Wildlife returned because water was now year-round. But here's what water utilities don't want you calculating. That ranch had been pumping 30,000 gallons monthly for livestock and domestic use, costing $400 monthly in electricity and maintenance. After springs emerged, he reduced well pumping by 60%, cutting costs to $160 monthly. The swales cost $2,800 to build. Return on investment? 12 months. Now, scale to a city. Lima's crisis could be solved by rebuilding Amunas at $100 million, or desalination at $3 billion. The cheaper option creates permanent water with zero operating costs. The expensive option requires ongoing energy, maintenance, and generates profit for contractors. Guess which one gets funded? The one with recurring revenue. The leaked World Bank memo from 1991 stated, large-scale passive water harvesting systems, while effective, do not generate sufficient ongoing economic activity to justify development bank involvement. Infrastructure projects requiring long-term operational financing provide better opportunities for sustainable lending relationships. Translation? We can't make money off ditches that work forever, but we can make billions off desalination plants requiring loans, energy contracts, and maintenance in perpetuity. So here's how you build this without fighting bureaucrats. First, legality. In most jurisdictions, building swales that slow and infiltrate water on your property is legal without permits, as long as you don't dam defined watercourses. Key phrase, passive infiltration. Check local code under grading. Most allow earthwork under 3 feet without permits. Second, find contour. A contour line connects all points of equal elevation. Water on perfect contour won't flow uphill or downhill. It spreads evenly and infiltrates. Use an A-frame level or laser level, both under $50. Drive stakes every 10 feet, mark elevation with string level, connect the marks. That's your contour. Third, dig your swale along that contour. Dimensions 2 to 3 feet wide, 8 to 12 inches deep. The swale must be level end to end, verified with a level. If one end is lower, water rushes there and overflows instead of infiltrating evenly. Fourth, build a berm on the downhill side using excavated soil. This creates a basin holding water until it infiltrates. Plant trees or shrubs on the berm where roots access deep moisture. Spacing depends on slope. 5% slope, space swales 30 to 40 feet apart. 10% slope, 15 to 20 feet apart. Now, real numbers you can replicate. A New Mexico homeowner with half-acre lot on 7% slope installed 3 swales in 2019. Lot 150 by 145 feet. Annual rainfall 12 inches. Before swales, water rushed downhill and off property within an hour. He dug 3 swales, each 100 feet long, 2.5 feet wide, 10 inches deep, spaced 40 feet apart. Excavation, 3 days with rented mini excavator, $600. He planted 15 fruit trees on berms. First year, minimal results. Trees needed supplemental irrigation. Year 2, soil probes showed swales working. During a 2-inch July rain, swales captured 5,000 gallons, all infiltrating within 48 hours. By September, 2 months later, soil moisture at 3 feet depth still 22%, enough to keep trees growing without irrigation. Before swales, September moisture at that depth, 6%. Year 3, a seep appeared at property base 80 feet below lowest swale, flowing 6 weeks after monsoon ended. Year 4, irrigation eliminated entirely. Fruit trees produced 200 pounds. Water bill dropped from $85 monthly to $35. Total savings, $600 annually, plus $600 fruit. The swales paid for themselves in 1 year. This is what the Inca knew 4,000 years ago. Gravity and infiltration are free. Slow water, sink it into ground, the landscape becomes a battery, storing moisture and releasing it through springs. Modern engineers know this works. The research proves it. But there's no patent on a ditch, no consumable product, no recurring revenue. A utility teaching customers to create springs is training customers to leave. In 2012, permaculture designers proposed teaching swale construction in drought-stricken California as part of state conservation programs, free workshops, demonstration sites. California Water Resources Control Board declined, stating, large-scale earthwork interventions require site-specific engineering review and are not appropriate for general public implementation. Translation, we can't standardize, regulate, and profit from people digging ditches on their land. Better to keep them dependent on piped water. But physics doesn't need approval. Contour lines don't require permits, and the Inca didn't ask permission before turning the Andes into a self-watering garden feeding an empire. The Amunas above Lima are being rebuilt right now. Communities are clearing ancient channels. Within months, springs are flowing again after being dry for decades. Engineers are documenting it, measuring it, and quietly admitting 4,000-year-old technology outperforms $3 billion in modern infrastructure. If you live on sloped land, if you watch rain run off your property, this is your answer. It's older than plumbing, older than the concept of water as property. The Inca gave you this for free. The World Bank tried to bury it, but gravity doesn't care about lending relationships. If this changes how you see rain, share it. The springs are waiting 6 feet down, and the landscape will remember, even if the banks forgot.